Last episode, we built an abandoned looking factory on the riverside and set up a prismarine and lapis farm. And in this episode, we'll be expanding our town once more with a new dye factory, both to generate lots of new dyes, but also to use createmod fans to wash items with dye as well. Welcome back everyone. Now our lapis and prismarine farms have been going quite nicely. We do have about 1,000 lapis in here, as well as about just underneath 3k normal prismarine and just underneath 1k dark prismarine. And the only real major changes I made in here were I changed our pulse timer to our redstone requester for requesting oak logs to 30 minutes, because honestly, we really don't need that much black dye. Just enough to make our dark prismarine. Now, as you may have read in the title, we are making a dye factory today, which is lapis is going to be very useful for. And I think my general plan is to finally get this bit of road done and extend it across the rails over here. As room in the center of town, it's getting a little bit tight actually. And while we do have some space over here, I have some future plans for that. And that's totally why you can see some cobble. We're not quite there yet. What I essentially want to do is bring the road across the tracks here and actually over up here towards this bit of moonlight valley, because I think I'm going to have my dye factory round about here, as I think it will look a little bit better with all the blues and purples. And I think I'm going to do this factory slightly differently by actually building the exterior probably last, as I'm not entirely sure how big this place is going to be, but I can at least clear out some trees for now and start on at least some kind of floor. And I think something of this size will do for now. I've just used these calcite tiles from Great Bits and Bobs. And also while I was doing that, there's a piglin over here. And I have no idea how he got here. The only way he could have come into this world is through my nether portal, which is not exactly nearby. Also, actually, with the map open, we can now see the new addition to Zero's maps, along with Create. We can now actually see where all my tracks are, including the trains as well. We can see the Crimson Arrow is here, our Swamp Train over here, which is actually currently unnamed train, but that is the Swamp Train. We've got our boat going into our mud factory, and our van that's going around the town. So this is actually a really nice addition to this. I like being able to see all the trains and stuff moving around. It's cool. But anyway, what I'm planning to do with this area is this entrance bit is probably going to be where I come in and dye things with liquid dyes. So I'm just going to place down some cobblestone here, kind of get an idea of where that front area is going to be. And I've kind of gone ahead and blocked out exactly where I want all these things to go. This front area is probably going to be where I'm going to be mixing some of the dyes that we make together to get the rest of the dyes that we need. First thing I'm actually going to do is right here. And this one is actually going to be quite a few of the flowers that I have in my inventory here. How I'm going to actually deal with that is use some hoppers. Yes, I know, using actual Minecraft redstone, wild. We're going to have some hoppers there and some mud on top with our 4 different types of flowers. Now, the reason why I've chosen the mud is that the mud is actually secretly not a full block, meaning that any items that kind of fall from these flowers down will go into the hoppers below and into the chute. Because essentially I'm going to use these 4 flowers to make yellow dye from the sunflowers, magenta dye from lilacs, pink dye from peonies, and red dye from rose bushes. I'm going to need to place down some deployers here because we're going to use some bone meal to actually get what we need. And I'm thinking of probably bringing in the bone meal from above, keeping that out of sight, which also means I need to place down a fan underneath the chutes so we can raise this stuff back up to the ceiling and transport that into some kind of storage. And of course, these are also going to need to be powered, so I'm probably going to bring these down. Make sure that they're facing the right way. Throw in a gearbox to attach to the fan. Make sure to put in some bone meal into the filters of these, and then we can somewhat decorate this thing. And I actually think I should probably bring the power over here. We do have some power lines down here already that I can make use of. So perhaps I'll do that real quick. And there we go. Hopefully that line is high enough to get over the trains. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll have to wait for one to arrive to see that. But I have brought it down to the side of our building here. I might have to add a transformer of sorts at some point. We can certainly bring the power underneath. And there we go. That seems to be working nicely. We obviously got our deployers deploying. And this fan is actually pushing items upwards, so perfect. Now for this to be fully functional, I am going to need to decorate it a little bit. May need to prevent things from flying out of the system. I think I am also going to use some of these copycat stairs and some of this terracotta tile to kind of match with the colors of the flowers that we actually have in here. There we go. I even added some glowstone on top as well to make sure that's all nice and lit. Honestly, it's kind of a shame that the sunflower is facing that way and not towards me, but oh well, life goes on. Now if we do a tiny bit of a test run, I can throw some bone meal into all of these. And this is the part of the video where I've realized that I haven't placed the deployers in the right place. Let's move those real quick. And with those moved back, we can try this again, and we can actually hear it this time working. And there we go. We now have all of our different flowers coming up. These are admittedly coming up a bit slower than I thought they would, but I guess it's not that big of a deal. I don't think we'll be having these going at full pelt. Yes, them being further back also means I can kind of hide the deploys better too. You can only just see them sticking through there. Yes, that is a good start. Also, we have to put these through millstones to actually get our dye. For example, the peonies gives us the pink dye and a small chance of magenta. But that's the general gist of what this particular system is going to be doing. It's going to cover the rest of the power line there, so it looks a bit better. And these two spots that I have on the sides of here, I think I'm going to bring in our calcite here, which we're also making in our limestone farm. So I can turn that calcite into bone meal and then also into white dye as well. And I'll have that here, and on this side I'm going to be bringing in some wood from our wood farm, turning that to charcoal, and then also turning that into black dye. But of course, neither of those things are here right now. I'm going to need to build my road first before that happens. But, I do plan to extend this floor out a little bit more so we can get in some of our other farms that I want to build. And there is the block out for the other farms. These two are gonna just probably be cactus farms. Cacti go pretty slowly, so I've built 2 of them, and that'll give us our green dye. Over here, I'm gonna have my cocoa farm, and over here, I'm going to have actually some sea pickle, and that'll give us some lime green dye. I am, however, going to start off with our cactus farm. And luckily we do already have some, and obviously grab some sand as well to put the cactus on. These are going to be pretty simple farms. I'm just going to throw some water down and a water wheel. It's in a mechanical bearing, blocks of course, in a barrel, and then that is turning that way around. So we need to place the saws facing this direction. I'll add about 6 of those double height, just in case the cacti happens to go quickly in a row. And obviously we can grab our glue, get it all attached, and that's working rather nicely. Then actually on top of here, I'm going to place a portable storage interface, as well as one up here, which is going to be up in the roof area, because I essentially want these to attach with each other pretty much always. it might help if I actually glue this together first. There we go. But those in theory are always touching. This bottom one doesn't seem to be visibly touching, but I think it is. Because for example, if we throw down a brass funnel attached to this, be sure that's facing the right way, and let's say I'll just put down a temporary cactus. I think once that cuts that, it should, just drop the cactus straight out of the system. And we can probably take advantage of this by setting a timer on this brass funnel as well, so that it only goes off, I don't know, every like 30 seconds. And then whatever is in the system will then get dropped out of the brass funnel. But let me actually set up the rest of our cacti here so that we can actually get this growing. In fact, I'll remove this brass funnel for now, just so it just built up in the storage, because we are going to need a little bit more for our second one over here. Which in fact, let me get this set up just for that. There we go. Then of course I can place some of our cacti here as well. It's a bit of a shame I can't use any bone meal as cacti to speed this process up, but that's fine. At least we've got these 2 systems going. Then as for our cocoa bee farm over here, we're going to do a similar setup, but this bit's going to be slightly different with some harvesters on it. Then I just need to more or less put in a bunch of this jungle log, and you can use stripped log for this as well, rather than just the typical unstripped version, I guess. And we can throw our cocoa beans down to get them growing on the wall. Make sure that I actually glue this all together. Get that spinning around. And then actually, I almost forgot to place in our storage interfaces as well. There we go. And luckily the cocoa beans actually grow relatively quickly, so we probably won't have to wait too long for this to build up. And although this does kind of collide into the edges here, it does completely work. All spots do indeed get picked up by the harvester, so that one should be going nice and fast. Now for my sea pickle farm, we're going to need to place down some blocks around the outer edge so we can throw in some coral and some water to make sure it doesn't die. Although I guess I was a little bit too slow on 2 of those, but that's fine. I can just quickly replace those. And I'm going to throw some sea pickles in one corner and then throw a deployer on top. And that's how we're going to bone meal those. And I know this is not actually centered. I kind of wanted to make it more centered to the building than itself, but whatever. And then as for the rest of this, I want to throw down some drills to cover up the rest of the coral blocks so that whenever the bone meal spreads the coral, or the pickles rather, the drills can insta-mine them. We're going to just need to make sure that these are all attached with a gearbox for the deployer and some cogs for the rest, and in case chain drive on top to make sure that's all connected. And then because the deployer is kind of surrounded with cogs and stuff, it's not going to be able to pick things up very well. So I think I'm actually going to use a backpack, and that's specifically a backpack with a magnetic upgrade, and I've gone for the advanced one because I'm not entirely sure what the distance on these things are. And if I were to make it the same height as all these other portable storage interfaces, I'm kind of hoping still that reaches far enough. We'll find out, I guess. Now I've gone ahead and brought some power over here. However, we are going to need to slow this thing down a little, as I think this would be overwhelmed pretty quickly if we didn't. There we go. There is everything hooked up together. You know what, actually, I just realized we are going to need to put in bone meal. So what I may do is just place these chutes down so that we can have bone meal moving down through. In fact, I'll make sure to replace the top one with a smart chute, put some bone meal on that. So that's the only thing going in. Then as a little test run, I guess we can throw in some of our bone meal. We'll throw in 5 for now. And as you see, the hand goes down, the sea pickles grow, and then they get instantly drilled away. And it looks like it is being picked up by our backpack here. And as you can see, it's going pretty quickly. And the backpack is indeed close enough to reach that. So that is great. And in terms of the easily farmable dyes, that's pretty much all of them. The rest we now need to more or less use a mix of all of these and of the black and white dyes to make the rest of them. But of course, I am going to need to import our calcite and charcoal, or just wood for this matter, to this area, which also means I need to actually build a road over here. And I do want to use the pavers, so I'm going to place down some kind of temporary train track for this to go along, and it also will be kind of an indicator where I actually want my tracks to go as well when they go underground. I'll have to back off some of this dirt so we can get our road in. Now, one problem with the track is that it does actually start going slightly downwards, as you can barely even see, but I might have to push this track back a little bit and adjust this, but that's fine. What I essentially want to do is just kind of figure out exactly where this road is going to go, and I am going to do that with the railway tracks just because, honestly, it just makes life a little bit easier. The only issue I really have to worry about is how I'm going to move the truck around when it gets here. I might just do a loop again rather than try and do a 3-point turn. Kind of prefer the loops anyway, but it probably means we need to pull off of this one first, figure out exactly where the turning point is. And I think something like this will work out. We have a nice turning around point, and maybe we can add some foliage and stuff in between so it's not just a typical boring roundabout. That's kind of where I want the track to go. I am going to at least temporarily remove this track so that we can place this down. Our swamp train will have to be a little bit patient, although I wish it didn't stop there specifically. I guess in theory the edge of the train train wheels are here, but it visually looks much further forward. Okay, that's not that big of an issue. Cal, we're going to take your schedule for now and reverse this train a little bit, I think. Oh, popped out on top. That's fine. But we'll leave that guy there for now. What I think I'm going to do is actually grab our paving train here. Though I forgot I didn't add a way to turn this thing off. So actually, you know what? We'll put it back into the middle track real quick. Fix what we just broke. Because what I want to do is update this train. I am going to temporarily place a little train station down here for the pure reason of adding to this one for what we need. And I think something of that width will do. And what we're going to use is I've installed a new mod called Create Randomize Filters, which is just like normal other filters, but we just make it with some light blue wool. Then with our filter, we can throw in our different deep slate types that we want, that we have used for the rest of our roads here. And then I believe I can just plop this filter down onto this, and that'll set it to all the mechanical rollers. Make sure that's set to clear blocks and pave. Throw these in. We'll reassemble the train, pick it up. And then in theory, this should just start working the way I want it to. Yeah, there we go. More or less gives us the result that we want. Of course, I probably am going to have to go in on these slope bits and add some half slabs and stuff, but that's fine. Certainly speeds up my job. Although I've just come to a sudden realization that I forgot to glue these two on, so whoops. Yes, what I think I'll do is start getting this road paved and see you guys in a moment. There we go, there is our road done. I've also thrown in the tracks underneath so that any kind of truck coming along here can follow the road. And I've also gone ahead and landscaped the area just a little bit, just to kind of flatten out some of the holes and whatnot, although there is definitely more to be done obviously over here. Now what I think I am going to do is place down a station down here as a little temporary measure, because I want to set up a new train here so we can actually have a truck down here, and this truck is probably going to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to actually place down a second bogie. As for the design of this truck, it is going to be pretty similar to some of the others I have made, although definitely a lot longer, and we are going to use some more of these weathered iron blocks, and of course some black concrete for the wheels. And I think I am going to make this one with blue concrete, but let's place in some of the copycat stairs that we need. Have a little panel on the front for our engine grill, some stairs over the wheels for the wheel compartments. And then I think actually for this one I am going to place in some proper doors onto these, just so it's a little bit easier to get in and out of these vehicles, because that's a bit of a problem on the other ones. Of course we are going to need our windows. I'll use some framed glass for that, some more weathered iron on the top, and a trim to go around that. Some more half slabs to kind of cover up the back here. Some more steps up here to kind of act like exhaust pipes. And then one of the new things with Create Bits and Bobs are these headlamps, which you can actually place kind of in the middle of blocks. So I think those probably look a bit more like headlights than some of the other designs I've done. So I rather like that. Then the last bit I really need to do is place in some of these vertical half layers. These can act as our wing mirrors. There we go. There is the front cab more or less done. Now, as for the back of this, I kind of want it to look more like a tanker of sorts. So we are going to use some of these copycat slopes to kind of get the round look to it. We'll add some of this hazard blocks, the next layer, as I think that looks quite good. More concrete on top. And then before I completely enclose this, I'm going to throw in small item vault for any kind of parcels to go into. And I think these edge bits I do actually want to replace with probably some stairs and more weathered iron to make it look a bit more supported. I think throw in some different blocks at the bottom here just to make it look a little bit more interesting. Some of these catwalk railings to kind of wrap around the bottom part. Then at the back here, I want to place down some of these decals, but for some reason the default decals by themselves look kind of weirdly dark. But I figured out if I put a placard down first and then the decal, they certainly look a lot brighter. That's what I'm going to do there. Then I think I do also want a bit of a ladder going up here, and we can throw some more headlamps down for the brake lights. Then as for the top up here, even though we're not going to be able to really see it, I want to have little spots to see where, you know, you would empty and fill up this thing. I think I'm going to use some slices on the edges here just to surround that. And yeah, I think that's more or less what I want for this. It is, of course, a bit longer than my other trucks at the moment, so I think what I'm going to do is glue together probably the front part, making sure not to miss anything, and then have the back part as a separate thing so that we can split it into different bogies. So now I just need to come up and actually break this bit of floor, bring down some glass panes to attach to our bogie here. There we go. And then if I come in and place in some train controls on the inside, then assemble the train. This is a general idea of what this truck is going to actually look like. So if I get in for now, try and control this thing, although it might help if I actually place in a seat. Let's see how well this goes around a corner. Not the most ideal, and I've definitely missed some blocks on the truck here. I think I'll have to experiment with this a little bit to probably make it look a little bit better when going around corners, although to be fair, a truck like this probably shouldn't be going around a corner like this in the first place, so I'll think of something. Okay, there we go. I added an extra bogie in, and it doesn't look as bad anymore. I think that is passable for now. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that design overall. I need to fill in these holes again, and then set up the system to actually bring all our stuff over here. And I think the easiest one to start off with is probably our wood factory. I'm going to do something similar as I did over the bowl factory over here by just setting up a post box as well as a barrel and frog pot. Although first, let's get our chain conveyors in so we can move anything up to our post box and then connect our frog. And I think I'm going to call this LY star for lumberyard, and that'll be useful when I'm actually trying to move things over to our factory. Then I just need to do that for our calcite, which I'm going to need a packager for, but also we do actually have this chain drive going through here, which is of power, but we could have that go around and meet up with this frog port instead, rather than having its own separate system, which might be a good idea actually. So we can just hook this straight up to that one. As for our lapis though, I think I will keep this separately, and that is that one set up. I brought it all the way up to the kind of roundabout up here, and I'm going to just name this one LP for either lapis or lapis prismarine, however you want to view it. And then back over at the factory here, I think I'm going to set up a bit of a conveyor belt here on the outside of the building, which may just be a bit of a temporary measure until I figure out exactly where this will go. I'm going to have the truck bring the stuff to this post box, which I think I can convert directly into a packager and take anything out of that onto our belt. I then also decided that I am just going to process all the 3 dyes right here rather than trying to separate them across. And after quite a lot of figuring out later, I have set up these 3 processes. We have one for the calcite, goes into bone meal, and that will turn into dye. We'll have our pale oak wood come into here. We do have some lava underneath here. You can just see it there. And there's a fan blowing up onto that depot, which will turn it into charcoal. And then that will turn it into black dye and also a chance of gray. And then the lapis will go straight into the millstone and just turn that into blue dye and straight through this chute. And then we also have a fan pushing this all the way up into the roof area. So for now, I think I'd like to do a little bit of a test with this by just placing a barrel there and a packager. Then I'm going to start hooking up some of these stock links so that the system knows just how much stuff that we actually have, including obviously at the end here. And I've set up a little temporary wall here for some factory gauges. And I'm going to place all the things that we need in here and then include all our new connections. Now, the only problem with the calcite to white dye is that it doesn't translate exactly perfectly because there's only a 75% chance of getting bone meal. So I may have to do like a really long promise expire, like let's say like 20 minutes, just to make sure that it's getting enough. And then all the rest should be good. Now, I'm pretty sure all I need to do here is do ly underscore dye, because the ly stands for lumberyard, and then dye is this mailbox over here. So that's pretty straightforward. And then the same thing here, because we are using the lumberyard host box as well. And then this one's slightly different, where we do lp underscore dye, because it's coming through the lapis prismarine factory. So now in theory, let's say we're literally just going to ask for one of these. If we head over to the factory, we should see in this mailbox a bit of mail, and you can kind of see there already is one in here, which there is. ly dye, stripped pale oak log 1. So that is working, and we can kind of do the same thing for these two as well. As you can see, there is now one calcite waiting, one pale oak log waiting. Over here, there should be some lapis waiting, which there is. Perfect. And what I'm going to do is come over to our truck here, grab this sheep to be our driver. In you go. And then we'll set up a schedule to go to the lapis farm, the tree farm, and then the dye factory. And I'll make it wait here probably like a few minutes to make sure it's not going around too often. If I then give this schedule to our sheep here, the truck should be now going along. I did set up some traffic lights, so there shouldn't be any issues with any of the trucks colliding, although I do need to slow this truck down. Wow, it is going fast and catching up to the other one. The signals do appear to be working, as there should be one on this corner here. There sure is. So let me actually quickly grab the schedule. I'll add another action to limit the max speed, I think to like, is it 50 or 30%? I'll put it as 50 for now. Give the schedule back. And when this stops here, I can quickly check this schedule to see the speed on this one. Oh, the speed is 25%. Okay. But the truck did just pick up the parcel that was here, so that's good. And it should be picking the one up at this spot as well. And I can quickly change this back to 25% like the other truck. And now if we wait to get this truck all the way back to the dye farm, we should stop rather nicely around about here. The parcels haven't left, but I think that's because I need to actually power this. There we go. Although one thing I forgot to do is actually depackage them, apparently. Okay, now that system should work properly. I have reset the promises over here, so they should now be back in their respective mailboxes. And we'll wait for the truck to come back around with all the packages that we need. And so now this time, hopefully we got everything. There we go. There is the wood by the looks of it. I think the calcite went into there, but we did not actually get our bone meal out of that, which was unfortunate. We did get our black dye, which is good. And I'm not sure what happened to the lapis. I might have not reset the promise properly. But overall, that does seem to be working. I think what I'll do is I'll probably actually do these in like half stacks, I will say. That might also help with the calcite turning into bone meal as well. Okay, after a little bit more troubleshooting, everything seems to be working well now. The only real changes I made is I changed this into a vault rather than using the brass tunnels. Each of these are now sent in 32 batches rather than one by one because the parcels were backing up a little bit. And the reason why we weren't seeing any lapis for a while is because the Alpha Evil wasn't loaded in. So I added some chunk loaders both here and in the main area, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore. But yes, that means the importing method is now done and ready. Then over here, I think this is where I'm actually going to have our mass storage of dyes. What I think I'm going to do is add a bit of a belt going around the outer edge of this building, because I am obviously going to want to pull out from our storage to actually craft all the different dyes that are going to be over here. And essentially what I need to do is pull out of this item vault the dyes that we actually need to mix together and then place them into these basins to mix into the final product. So let's say we start off with light gray dye, which is made using one black dye and one white dye. We will essentially need to add a packager on the side here with an andesite funnel. as well as storage link to it, so we know what is inside that vault. Then as for an example, I'm going to quickly do some gauges on the bottom here. We need to put black dye in one and white dye in the other, and make sure to connect these two up. And we know we need our 2 white dye and black dye to make what we need, and that gives us 3 light gray dye. Then what I can do here is I can just put in light gray as our address. And if I make actually some package filters, I can type in light gray into this one and place it into our funnel here. So now if I ask for, let's say 10, as we already have 7 in the system, pulls out of that one, goes into there, mixes it, comes out, and I think it came over here into this storage. Yeah, there we go. There is now 10 in here because this makes 3 of it. So that's pretty much the general gist of what I'm trying to do. And I'll need to do that for all the other colors. And that is all that set up. We've got gray, orange, cyan, light blue, and purple. I realized I overcounted how many dyes I needed, so we got a spare one here. And then I also made this one what's going to be actually our white dye, because I was originally processing it here, but then I realized that I actually need the bone mill for a bunch of other things. So this is going to be purely only processing to bone mill, and then whenever we need the white dye, this will kick in. In fact, actually, I should probably make sure this is powered. There we go. Now the rest of this is more or less just hooking up all the different factories together and the bone mill together so we can get all these farms truly working. There is my absolute monstrosity of belts. I essentially have all the ones that are coming through here, come up here, go along. If they are bone mill, they'll continue down this way where they're going to go into all these different chutes so that these can be bone milled, as well as along this line to this backpack so that we can bone mill the sea pickles as well. And all the other slots are pretty much just coming out into separate millstones to be turned into dye and then eventually deposited into this item vault. The only thing I really need to do now is start placing these down so that it starts ejecting them into our millstones. I also made one other slight change to the bone mill stuff as well. I separated out the bone mill storage into its own separate thing, and then whenever I need a dye from, say, any of these flowers or the sea pickles over here, a package will be sent out to this particular belt line, and using these package filters, I set it so it says bone mill lime, for example, for the sea pickles, and then the same thing for like yellow, purple, etc. So as you can see, there is one for yellow here. So if I say I want to ask for 10, that should put out a package which will go along this thing into there, placed into this deployer where it bone milled it a few times, and then that gets pulled back up here into this millstone, into this item vault, and there we go. We now have 10 or even more so dye, because actually I think sunflowers give you 2 each. So actually we can fix that real quick. There we go. I think the only real change that makes is that I do need to add our pink and lime green spots for these factory gauges, and to make sure that these are hooked up to the bone mill. There we go. And now realistically that should all be working. And then for example, let's say I want one of these light blue dyes. That should eject from there, come over here, get mixed together, turned into light blue, goes eventually back into the storage. And there we go. There is our 2. And I believe that's all that we need to do for all the dyes now. The only thing really left is to actually get an exterior around this building and to set up the dye pods here using the liquid dyes. This video is already pretty long, so I'm going to go do that and show you the final product. There we go. There is our exterior more or less done. I used a bunch of the crate deco bricks and terracotta in all the different colors. I feel like that made a lot of sense. And then when you first enter now, we have all of our dye pods, which is just using liquid dye and some fans to essentially dye anything that you drop into it. Then of course we got main room with all my different crate contraptions, all the different dyes. I did have to do a little bit more tweaking with the system, so over here has become a bit of a mess now, but that's fine. But as far as I'm aware, all of this does work. And we also have access to all of our dyes here as well. And we definitely got plenty of brown dye, lime dye, and green dye from all of our farms. I'm probably going to have to add some kind of turn off switch for those, but that's fine. But yes, overall, pretty happy with this. It definitely took me a very long time to do it all, a lot more than I was expecting. But thank you everyone for watching today, and thank you to Derpy Drago for being my first YouTube member. There isn't really many benefits currently at the moment for the YouTube membership stuff. I do plan to have some kind of world download and stuff attached to it, but we're not quite there yet. So I very much appreciate the support regardless. And if you would also like to become a member, there should be just a join button underneath the video, although I recommend doing it through a browser or something and not on mobile, because otherwise Apple and stuff take their own cut as well, which means more money going to Apple and Google and less to me. But anyway, once again, thank you everyone for watching today, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye for now.